welcome back. So we've got a beautiful dialogue. It is so pretty and it's great. It's just that there's no actual saving that happens. So you hit that and it says to do, submit. So what we want to do is we want to actually push this to our Firebase database, obviously. And what we need to do is we need to decide how we want to do it. So right now we've kind of got two choices for where the data can be saved. So we could do the actual saving in the main component. And so we could open the dialog and then we could just have the dialog give us back the fields, right? So it could give us back three fields, one for service, one for name, one for password. It could also just give us an object. It could give us that form object, and we could do it over here. And that's a totally valid thing to do. If you go look at the examples, there's information about doing that. As soon as I go up to the right area, there's information about doing that. And the way you do that is like when you open the dialog, you could pass some things to it. And then when you close the dialog, you can pass things back, right? So we could programmatically, like inside the dialog here, when we close it, we could pass back this dot form password, and that should work. But we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it a different way. The way that we're going to do it is not necessarily better. It's not necessarily worse. It's just different. But one neat thing you can do with Firebase is you can actually push things to Firebase in one place and then still just be retrieving them somewhere else. And the two actions can be pretty independent, and that's fine. So the way I'm going to choose to do this, and again, it's not necessarily better, is I'm going to choose to do the saving inside the dialog. So really the main component, he just says show the password dialog, and then the password dialog just takes care of everything else. And that's just how I'm going to choose to do it. Now, in order for the password dialog to take care of everything else, he needs to know where to put the data. And the only thing he needs to know is he needs to know who's signed in right now. And if he knows who's signed in right now, he knows where to put the data. So there's two ways we could do that. All these choices in the design of your software, I love it. So one thing he could do is he could totally subscribe to the auth state, and he could figure out who's signed in himself, and that's a fine thing to do. If we knew about services, we might do something with services as well. But the other thing we could do is we could just pass it from main into the dialog. And that's actually something I wanted to teach you anyway, is this passing of data to dialogs and getting stuff from dialogs. And what we're going to learn about this time is passing data to dialogs. So the piece of information that he would really like to know is this right here. What is the Firebase path? So what I'm going to do is, I know this piece of data here. I want to pass it to him down here, so I'm going to save off a property is the first thing I'm going to do. So I'm just going to say, I'll put it above this one, private, we'll just call it Firebase path, and it's a string. And so this Firebase path, so right here we're going to say this dot Firebase path equals, it's kind of funny that this used to be broken off as a different variable, but then I foolishly put it in line. Maybe you were less foolish, but now it's going to graduate to actually be a member variable. So now I've saved off the Firebase path. And now what I want to do down here is I want to pass that Firebase path into the component. And the way that works is you can pass it as a second parameter, a piece of data. So let's see what that looks like. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a dialog config object. And this dialog config object is a new MD dialog config. And so we'll have to import that. And it just came from Angular material. It's interesting how whenever I do that import, it messes up the first one, but then all the other ones do fine, which is kind of funny. And so this dialog config object, we're going to put in whatever we want. We're going to go ahead and put in a field called Firebase path, and it's going to be equal to our this dot Firebase path. Perhaps those variable names were confusing. We'll just go ahead and set it like that. Why is it mad? Oh, it's mad because I actually meant to say dialog configs data is equal to that. So that's why it was mad there. And then the thing that we pass in is the dialog config. And again, you can see all these things over in their documentation. So it's sharing data with the dialog component. And here what they do is they kind of do it more inline as opposed to making the object. But you can see they're passing in an object which has a property data, and that's what we're doing over here. We're passing in an object called the dialog config. as a property data, and his property data is another object, whereas their example over here is just a string. And then what we need to do is we need to access it on the other side. So on the other side, you need to pull it out. And you have to do something that's kind of weird. You have to do this at inject MD dialog data public data any. So I'm just going to grab that from right there, because I'm going to have to do that on the other side. And then it'll have an import, which will be easy to do. So that's how I pass it in. And then on the other side, when I want to get it out, what I do is I use dependency injection. So I've already got the dialog reference in here. I'm going to have another thing, a little auto format. It says inject, I don't know what you're saying. That comes from the core. It's saying MD dialog data, I don't know what you're saying. And it comes from at Angular material. Cool, and so now I've got this data that's available. Right now it's public. I think I'm fine with making it private. And let's go ahead and print it, and then we'll do some more with it. So we'll just say received the data, and then it's just called data right now. I think instead of calling it data, I'd rather call it dialog data. Just, I don't know, it's not really that much more descriptive, but it's certainly not any worse. So let's just see if that Firebase path comes through and we're able to pass that on in. All right, so it looks like it's refreshed now. So as soon as I hit this button, we should see it. And then sure enough, it says receive the data, Firebase path, users/FisherDS. So he's now received the information that he needs so that he can do something with it. Another thing I like to do, and this is a little bit more optional, is I like to try to make interfaces with places when I can. And so I'm just going to go ahead and make an interface here for the password dialog data. And I'm just going to say that it's got a Firebase path on it, which is a string. So not a huge difference, but instead of saying that it's an any, I'm going to say that it's conforms to the protocol password dialog data. And then that way I just kind of know what it's got on it. All right, so now I'm ready to do the heavy lifting. Now I'm ready to actually submit this thing. So I've got this form, this form password, and I'm ready to push it up. And so how do I push it up? Well, there's two ways you can push things up. You can push things up using Angular Fire 2, or you can push things up using the standard Firebase API. In this case, since I'm choosing to do it from the dialog, I only want to push. I don't want to retrieve at all. I find that that's easier to do with the standard Firebase API. And the reason is that the standard Firebase API is broken up, and to retrieve, you do these things, and send, you do these things. And they're separate, whereas with Angular Fire, they're kind of like intermingled. And if I only want to do one, I find it's easier to do the standard Firebase API. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import my Firebase API, since I'm using the standard one. And then I'm going to have to, remember the commands to do things like this. And the way the standard one works is you say firebase.database.ref. And then whenever you say .ref, you can actually pass in a path right here. And so here we can actually say this .dialog data.firebase path. And so that'll get us on the right path. And then what we want to do is we want to do a .push. And the thing that we want to do a .push of is the form password. So let me get that all into the same line there. So I think that looks good. But one thing I do like to do with on submits is I typically, I like to surround them in try catch blocks. And the reason for that is just because if I do make an error, like during development, it's really hard to catch if there's an error that happens with it on submit, because it does this whole weird thing with the form submitting. And so this is just for me during testing. So there was a submit error, and then I'll just say what the error was. Oh, by the way, there's console.log, and then there's also like console.error, which shows up in like red, I'm sure. Hopefully you don't see that red very often, but I will go ahead and do this. And then I don't need the to do anymore because I should be doing it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open up my Firebase database just because I enjoy seeing it in the console there. I'm going to find password keeper right there, the database, and you can see that right now I've got 2 auto-generated keys. And so now I should be able to push my first one up. So it retrieved where it's going to put it. And so I'm going to say my first service. My username, I'll just use FisherDS again, and my password is ABC123. And so I hit save, and you can see that it popped right up here at top, and then it also popped over here with real stuff in it. So it's got a service, a username, and a password. As soon as I have the ability to create real data, I usually blow my fake data away. So I'm just going to blow away my fake data. And you can see that now I'm able to create things. So if I come back over to my app, I'm down to only one, but things are now working. So I can say Google Fi, and my username is, we'll just pretend like it's Fisher there, and my password is blah blah. Oh, since this is a form, I should also be able to hit enter, and it should be able to submit it there as well, which is kind of cool. And that seems to be working great. So I probably can kill some of these console logs. There's like a show dialog and a receive data. I think I can probably get rid of those. So receive data, that's working now. And then if I go over here, it says show dialog. I can probably get rid of that one as well. All right, so let's go ahead and check this in and see kind of what changed. So I, on my main, which is where I send things out, I saved off the Firebase path. Looks like I added a blank line in there that I didn't really need. So I saved it off, and then when I open the dialog, I obviously pass that into, and then on the receiving end, I receive that information via the dialog data, and then I use that when I push it to Firebase. So this is push passwords to Firebase. Cool. So that's it for this time. Come back next time and we'll do some more stuff.